What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Crypto, Coffee and LoFi. Before we get started, a special thanks to Delta Exchange for sponsoring this series. If you want to sign up with them, click the link in the description below. Help us out, help the series out. Sign up, make a deposit, trade with them for a bit. I appreciate it. So it's been a few days since I've made an episode. Nothing much has really changed from my higher time frame bias. I still think we're bullish. I think today we get a little bit of a deeper retrace though, and I'm going to go over exactly what I think is going to happen. If you are new here, I'm essentially just using the same pattern to find accumulation, distribution, support, resistance, and that same pattern again as an entry trigger. So what is that pattern? I look for a high. Let's say I'm looking to short. I would look for a high. I wait for that high to get swept. I then wait for price after the sweep to break below the low that was responsible for taking that high. That's the first sign that there's distribution. And then I look for the same pattern to form again inside of that range. So a good example of that is ETH. And I took a short on that this morning. This is live on Twitter, so I posted that setup in advance. So you can go and check that out. There isn't any hindsight. So you can see we swept out this high right here, then breaking below the low that was responsible for taking that high. Returning to this range right here, from this low through this high, and then forming the same pattern again. So sweeping out that high, then breaking below the low that was responsible for taking that high. Now, we didn't get a full retracement back into this, but that's fine. We'll go into the lower time frames here in a bit. And you can see there was a lower time frame set up there. So what did I use for an objective? I used the previous area of accumulation. So this is distribution. Then I mark out the area of accumulation, and that was my target. So when I enter a trade, there's two kinds of objectives that I look at. The first objective would be a liquidity target. So for an example, a double top or a key swing high that's obvious, that has not been swept, that caused a substantial down move. This is if I'm getting long, by the way. So if I see accumulation, then I'll look to get long into the swing high, or if I see accumulation, then I'll look to get long into the double top. The other kind of target that I use, let's say if I am looking to get long and I see the long setup, I will look at the other side of the range to see if there's a previous area of distribution that hasn't yet been tested. So here we have the accumulation. Here's the entry trigger. I then look for the previous area of distribution, and that will be my target. So in this case, in ETH's case, we saw the distribution. I waited for the trigger, and then I targeted the other side of the range where accumulation was lying. It's pretty simple. There's a little bit more to everything. If you want to learn more, you can click the link in the description below. Pick up a copy of the strategy. Or there's the indicator here, which one for one kind of copies the strategy. So you can see it took a short, a long, a short here, a long here, a short, stopped out on that, a short, long, stopped out on that long, and then up the top here took a short for the leg down that we saw this morning. So that's the basics of the strategy. I guess now I'll go over my bias. Take a look at Bitcoin. On the higher time frames, we have some solid accumulation. So moving below these equal lows, this low right here and this low right here, into an area of liquidity. Obviously, when you see two equal lows, a lot of players in the market will assume that that is support. But I don't necessarily just randomly buy below equal lows. I wait to see if we can get some accumulation, which is exactly what we got. So taking out this low, then breaking above the high, returning to this range here between this high and this low, forming the same pattern again, getting stopped on that position, but the initial area of accumulation is still valid. So moving back inside this range, and forming the same pattern again here, and then taking off. Alright, so I've explained this before. You can go watch the video at the start of my channel called The Smart Way to Read a Trend, but essentially, even if we are making lower lows and lower highs, as long as the previous areas of accumulation are holding, then that tells me that the buyers that were interested in the areas of accumulation are still interested. So even if we get another move down, as long as the previous areas of accumulation hold, we're good. So the areas that stick out to me, zoom in a little bit, swept out that low, breaking above the high, swept out that low, breaking above the high. Then we have this low and this high here that's yet to be tested. So I think what we see today is a run up, take some liquidity above this high. Not looking to blindly short, obviously, but if we get a move above that high and then we distribute, then I'll look to jump into a short. On top of that, we do have these equal lows here, so it's added confluence. Equal lows resting just above a previous area of accumulation is generally a good sign that once we reach into that accumulation, we will reaccumulate. So if the market is in fact bullish, I'd like to see these equal lows swept out, followed by some more accumulation. If we get that, then I'll look to enter the majority of my swing long positions again, enter some spot positions, see if altcoins line up, and if they do, then I'll enter long on those as well. But the bearish scenario would be some more distribution leading into London Open, and then starting to see these levels get invalidated. These levels getting invalidated on their own aren't enough for me to assume that the market is turning bearish. The first sign though would be these levels getting invalidated. Once they are, the fuck is that noise? Sorry about that. So let's say this does get invalidated. I would then need to see more distribution after the invalidation to suggest that sellers are stepping into the market and that the buyers that stepped in at the previous areas of accumulation are no longer interested. So to make that a little bit simpler for you guys, bro, shut the fuck up, man. Kids screaming in the hotel next door. Fucking kids. I'm getting old, man. So, a game plan for today, if I get it, is a move above these highs, distribution, a short into below these lows. If and once we do move below the lows, if we reaccumulate, then I'll look to get long. Where would I long into? Like I explained before, there's two kinds of objectives: equal highs or the previous area of distribution. So here we have a sweep followed by a break in structure. Since that break in structure, we haven't returned to that level. So if we reaccumulated areas, previous areas of accumulation, then I would assume that the next obvious target would be previous areas of distribution. If we invalidate this high and continue to break up, then we have all of these equal highs here to test. So yeah, what's something that is bullish that I'm not sure we'll get a retrace near? So you can see we swept out this low, then we've broken above the high. I'm waiting for an hourly close. That's 30 seconds away. It looks like we're going to get it. If we get the retracement into this zone, followed by some more accumulation, then we can look to get long into all-time highs. I'm assuming this is all-time high anyway. Once we break up above all-time highs, I'll be looking to close the majority of my position and then holding it unless we get some obvious sweep and distribution, something like this. So looking to get long today, somewhere inside of that range if we get the setup. Then closing the majority off at the highs, keeping the rest on unless we see distribution. If we fail to accumulate inside of this range here, then I would expect one more sweep where hopefully we get some more accumulation at this level. Why this level though? See, we have all of these equal lows just here. Where was the high that was responsible for taking those lows? Right here. So we have broken above, but since the breakup, since the breakup, we haven't yet retested this level and accumulated. So it's possible that we have one more leg down. What else was I looking at? ETH, similar story here. No setup or trigger, even though we do have a sweep followed by a break. I still need to wait for the second sweep before there is an obvious long setup. So I would need something like this. If we get that, then I'll look to get long, but I'm thinking what we do is take out that low and accumulate. If we get something like this, then I will look to enter heavy positions into these highs and then into all-time highs. What's looks doing? Not much support here on looks, unfortunately. We could get a retracement all the way back to the start of this base. So you can see we swept out that, both of these lows, then breaking above the high here. Since this leg up, we don't really have any accumulation. Obviously people are accumulating, but by my definition anyway. So in theory, if we are going to continue up, we should retest the previous areas of accumulation. If there are none in this leg, then we look where the accumulation started, right at the beginning of the leg up. So if we reach into this level and reaccumulate here, then I'll look to get long. SLP. I'm holding a spot bag. I think this is a decent play. As you can see, we took out all of these lows. Then breaking above the high is responsible for taking those lows. Then taking out this key swing low. What we need now is a break in structure. Something like this. I'm not sure that I would enter a margin leverage position once we get a close above here. I think what I would do is wait for a lower time frame entry around an open. If we don't get that lower time frame entry, then of course it's possible that we come down, especially because we have another sweep here that is yet to be tested. So really, if we get the failed break above there and then we don't reaccumulate here, then I think taking out that low and reaching into this level here would be most likely, or the most likely scenario. Well, no worries guys, I'm going to cut that episode here. Just in the midst of fixing my sleeping pattern again, but once it is fixed and I can get into a proper schedule, I'm going to start live streaming these episodes, so I think that'll be pretty cool. I have been live streaming a few times over the last couple of days, doing a bit of gambling as well, but that's not really sustainable. So let me know in the comments if you want to see this live stream, because then you can give chart suggestions and stuff like that. Alright, so if any of this interests you and you want to support the series and support me for posting all the calls and everything on Twitter, basically just giving away money, you can click the link in the description below, pick up a copy of the strategy. I teach you everything in here. It's all in like PDF files and video files, and then there's the indicator as well. No worries guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.